I didn't realize it was a growl at first. I thought someone was screaming. It came from behind the shed. Low, broken, desperate, like a person caught between pain and panic. I dropped the bag of feed I was carrying and ran. There was still some snow in the shady parts of the yard, the kind that refuses to melt even when the trees are blooming. It was April, but spring had been slow this year. I stepped around the corner and froze. Blood on snow, and a shape not human. At first, I thought it was a large dog. Then I saw the face. Broad cheeks, tufted ears, yellow eyes locked on mine. It was a bobcat, an old one by the look of him, thin, matted fur, and one leg, the back right, twisted unnaturally. I took a step back. He didn't move, just stared. "What the hell happened to you?" I muttered. No answer, of course. Just breathing heavy, uneven. I looked around. No tracks leading in, at least none I could see. No other animals. No signs of a fight. But there he was, bleeding, broken, alone. I should have called someone. Animal control. A vet. Hell, anyone but me. But I didn't. Maybe it was the way he didn't flinch when I moved. Or how his eyes didn't leave mine. There was something in that look. Not trust exactly, but not fear either. Like he was past fear. I took a step closer. He blinked. Didn't growl this time. I had some gloves in the shed. A few old towels. A flashlight. My hands were shaking as I grabbed them. I dealt with raccoons before, a fox once, but never anything this big. This wild. When I came back, he was still there. Still watching. I crouched, slowly. "I'm not gonna hurt you, buddy." He didn't respond. Just let me get close enough to see the leg. The bone hadn't broken the skin, but it was bad. Swollen, bent. I didn't need to be a vet to know it hurt like hell. I reached out. He growled, not loud, but deep. A warning. I stopped. Okay, not touching. Got it. I backed off and laid the towel down. Thought maybe I could coax him onto it. But he didn't move. The sun was starting to dip. It got cold fast in the valley. I couldn't leave him out there, not like that. After a few more minutes of standoff, I made a decision. I rolled the towel, grabbed a small tarp, and made a rough sling. I'd seen it done in videos, people rescuing stray dogs. Never tried it myself. I approached again. This time, slower. The bobcat tensed, but didn't snarl. Easy, easy now. When I got close enough, I slid the tarp under his front legs. He flinched, but stayed down. One movement at a time, I pulled the fabric around him. He didn't fight. That's what scared me most. He didn't have the strength. I lifted him as gently as I could and carried him to the shed. The door creaked loud in the quiet evening. I laid him on an old dog bed my lab used to sleep on. I expected him to crawl away, to bare his teeth. But he didn't. He just looked at me, eyes wide, unblinking. And then he moved. Not away, closer. His head nudged my boot. That was the moment I stopped seeing a wild animal. That was the moment I knew I was already in deeper than I could handle. I spent most of that night in the shed, sitting on an overturned crate, watching him breathe. His side rose and fell unevenly, but he was alive. That alone felt like something. By morning, I'd rigged up a space for him, moved the old tools, swept the dust and with shavings into a corner, laid down more towels. I even brought out a bowl of water and some leftover chicken from the fridge. He didn't touch the food, but he drank slowly, keeping one eye on me the whole time. I called in sick to work, said I had the flu. Didn't feel like lying, but I wasn't ready to explain this. Around noon, I sat on the steps of the shed and just stared out at the trees. There were birds again, woodpeckers, jays. Life was trying to come back to the hills. Behind me, I heard movement. I turned. The bobcat was sitting up. Not all the way, but enough to lift his head and look around. He watched me, then the open door, then me again. "You're not planning to run, are you?" I asked. No response, obviously, but there was something unsettling in how calm he looked. Not just calm, aware, measured. That afternoon, I tried to research what to do. Most websites said leave wild animals alone. Some said to call wildlife rehab centers. The nearest one was over 3 hours away. I had no idea how to transport him, and part of me didn't want to. Not yet. I kept checking on him every hour. Once, I found him licking his injured leg. Another time, he was just staring at the wall, like he was thinking. By evening, I'd had enough second-guessing. I walked over to my neighbor Jake's place. He's retired, used to run the gas station in town. Friendly but nosy. He opened the door with a beer in hand. "Hey, stranger. You look like you've seen a ghost." I found a bobcat. Behind my shed. Hurt bad. Jake didn't even blink. You call anyone? No. Not yet. He's old. I don't think he's dangerous. Jake gave me a long look. You ever seen what one of those can do to a deer? I'm not a deer. Still, you keep it too close, someone's gonna make a call. And it won't be to help. I left his place with more questions than answers. Back home, the shed was quiet. Too quiet. I pushed open the door. He was gone. Panic hit like a wave. I looked around, the towels were scattered, the water bowl tipped. The back window was shattered. Glass on the floor. Blood on the sill. I ran outside. No tracks. Nothing but the wind through the trees. I stood there for a long time, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. Did someone take him? Did he run? Was he hurt worse? The forest felt huge all of a sudden. Too big. I wasn't ready to lose him, not after last night. Then, just before dark, I heard something. Not a growl. Not a cry. Just a soft thump on the porch. I opened the front door. There he was, sitting, breathing hard, eyes on mine, like he'd gone somewhere he had to go, and chose to come back. And for the first time, I wondered who was helping who. I didn't sleep that night, even though he came back. Even though he was lying right there on the porch like some strange house cat, I couldn't close my eyes. My mind kept replaying the broken window, the blood on the sill, the emptiness of the shed. Where had he gone? Why? By sunrise, he was gone again. This time, I didn't wait. I grabbed my boots, my coat, and headed into the hills. The fog hadn't lifted yet. It clung low to the ground, rolling slow between the trees like it had a mind of its own. I followed what little I could see. A bent branch here, a faint paw print there. It wasn't much, but it was something. I climbed higher, past the tree line where the pine gave way to rock and scrub. There, the fog thickened. A swallowed sound. Even my own footsteps felt muted. And then I saw it, a stone circle, half collapsed, moss-covered, tucked into the side of the hill like a secret. I walked closer, drawn in by some instinct I couldn't name. The stones weren't natural, not just fallen rock. They'd been placed, arranged, and at the center bones. Old ones, weathered, scattered, some still wrapped in fragments of leather. A rusted belt buckle, the broken handle of a knife. It hit me like a gut punch. A hunter's grave, maybe more than one. I didn't know how long it had been there, but something about it felt untouched, respected. I stood there for a long time, not sure what to feel. My dad used to take me up in these hills, back when I was small enough to ride on his shoulders. He taught me how to spot owl pellets, how to read tracks in the mud. He'd point at claw marks and say, "Every animal leaves a story. You just gotta learn to read it." He died when I was 13. Cancer. Fast and cruel. That grave felt like a place he would have stopped at. Would have taken off his hat. Said a quiet word. I did the same. Then I turned back. The fog was shifting now, breaking apart in pieces. And just as I reached the edge of the tree line, I saw a flicker of movement near the cabin. A shadow. Four-legged. Limping. I picked up pace, heart pounding. By the time I reached the clearing, he was there, curled up against the front door, chest rising slow. One eye cracked open, just enough to see me. I sat beside him. For a while, neither of us moved. I didn't ask where he'd gone. He didn't offer any signs. Then, slowly, he stretched out his front leg, that injured paw still swollen, still raw, and placed it gently on top of my boot. No claws, no weight, just contact. It wasn't dominance. It wasn't fear. It was something else. Something I didn't have a name for. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The fog lifted. I got the call just after breakfast. "Dave, we've had some complaints," my manager said. Her voice was stiff, rehearsed. "About what?" "About the animal. People are saying you've got a wild cat living with you." I didn't answer right away. "We can't ignore that. Legal's nervous. We need to be clear, either you relocate it or take some time off. Unpaid." That last word hit harder than I expected. Unpaid. I said nothing, just hung up. I sat at the table, staring at the wall. The smell of coffee had gone cold. Behind me, I could hear him breathing, stretched out by the heater, dozing like a retired old dog. I should have seen it coming. Jake had probably talked, or someone saw something. It didn't matter now. "Congratulations," I muttered. "You got me fired." He didn't respond, didn't even lift his head. Around noon, I decided to drive into town. I needed groceries, and frankly, I needed a break from the silence. I hesitated at the door, then looked back at him. "You'll behave, right?" His eyes flicked open. No expression, just watching. I left the back door cracked in case he wanted to go out. Then I left. The grocery store felt foreign. All the bright lights, the beeping at the registers, the chatter. I moved slow like I was underwater. I kept wondering what he was doing back at the house. When I finally got home, I braced for damage. Torn cushions, scratched doors, broken lamps. But the house was exactly as I left it. He was in the bedroom, on the bed, lying across the blanket like it belonged to him. I stood in the doorway for a full minute. Seriously, his ears twitched, but he didn't move. I walked in, set the bag on the floor. He lifted his head, just a little. Didn't touch the fridge, didn't pee on the rug, didn't tear up a single thing. Still no response. "You're making this very hard, you know?" That night I couldn't sleep. Again, not from fear that had passed. It was something else now, something I couldn't name. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the fridge, the soft creaks of the house. At some point I must have drifted off, but then I woke up, just after 2. The room was dark, silent. I sat up and looked around. He wasn't there. I got up, padded barefoot down the hall. The floor was cold, and there he was, sitting in front of the door, perfectly still, just sitting, like he was waiting for something, or someone. I didn't speak, didn't move. The moonlight lit half his face, and for the first time I wondered not if he was tame, but if maybe, somehow, he remembered being something else entirely.
If you love stories about wildlife rescue, click the subscribe button below. Here's how the button looks on different devices. Every subscription helps spread these stories and raise awareness. The more people know, the more animals get the help they need. And remember, subscribing is completely free. Click subscribe now and join us in protecting wildlife.
I was brushing his fur near the ear when I felt it. A small, hard bump under the skin. At first I thought it was a tick, but it didn't move, and it was too solid, too precise. I looked closer, parted the fur. A tiny scar, and just beneath it, something metallic. A microchip. I stared at it for a while, heart thumping. Who chips a bobcat? The next morning, I drove to the vet in Milltown, a good 40 minutes away. I lied at the front desk, said I found a stray and wanted to see if he had a chip. The tech scanned it and frowned. She stepped into the back room. A minute later, the vet came out. "You said you found him?" I nodded. The vet glanced at the screen. "This ID traces back to a research facility in Oregon. That's federal. Bioresearch. Animal testing?" He gave a slow, tired nod. "Likely. They sometimes release older subjects. Some get relocated. Most don't make it." My stomach twisted. Did they do anything to him? I can't say. Depends on the program. Behavior modification. Neurology. I've heard of implants. Stim response training. I drove home in silence. Back at the cabin, he greeted me like he always did. A blink, a stretch, nothing more. But now I saw him differently. Every movement, every glance. What had they taught him? What had they taken away? I tested it. First, I stood in the kitchen and said, "Sit." He sat. "Come." He walked over. "Stay." He froze in place. My mouth went dry. These weren't guesses. He knew. Later that night, I sat on the porch, trying to make sense of it. He curled up beside the chair, his breath slow and steady. "What are you?" I whispered. No answer. Just the wind through the pines. I started noticing more things. He never ate unless I gave a signal. He didn't react to sudden sounds. Once I dropped a metal pan, he didn't flinch. That wasn't natural. I began to wonder if he even remembered being wild. Then, near midnight, there was a knock at the door. I froze. No one knocks out here. Not without calling first. I opened it slowly. A man stood there, mid-40s, plain clothes, clean hands. But something in his posture screamed control, like a soldier on leave. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Sorry to bother you," he said. "I was hiking through the area. Saw some prints by the creek. Big ones. Just wondering. You haven't seen a big cat around here, have you?" I shook my head. "No cougars in this valley." He tilted his head. "Not a cougar. Smaller. Striped. About knee-high. Might look like a lynx, but it's not." My skin went cold. "Can't say I have," I lied. He looked past me into the dark house behind. "Well, if you do, you might want to be careful." Some of those animals aren't exactly safe. Then he turned and walked away. No car, no backpack, just vanished into the trees. When I shut the door, the bobcat was sitting in the hallway, silent, watching, like he knew exactly who that man was. The next day, I packed a duffel bag. I didn't plan on going anywhere, but I needed to look like I might, just in case he came back. The man from last night, I couldn't shake the way he'd stood there, relaxed but alert, like he was casing the place. I checked all the windows, reinforced the shed door, and when I walked back inside, the bobcat was still there, sitting by the fireplace like he hadn't moved all morning. "I don't know what you are," I said, "but someone wants you bad." He blinked. I didn't call the police. What would I even say? A government guy knocked on my door looking for a cat? They'd laugh me off the line. Instead, I called Jake. "You sure you haven't seen anything strange around?" I asked. He snorted. "You mean besides you playing zookeeper?" "Nah." "Why?" I didn't tell him, just said to keep his eyes open. That night, I noticed my phone was missing. Not just misplaced. Gone. I tore the house apart looking for it. Nothing. Then I checked the yard. That's when I saw it, a small black camera, nestled under the porch, pointed straight at my front door. No brand, no markings. I smashed it with a rock. The next morning, a note was wedged under my windshield. "Call this number. It's about the animal." No name, just digits. I burned the note without calling. For the rest of the day, I kept the bobcat inside. Watched him move from room to room, calm as ever, like he didn't care about any of it. Or maybe he knew how this game worked better than I did. That evening, I sat on the porch with a shotgun across my lap. I hadn't fired it in years. Around dusk, he slipped out through the cracked back door. I didn't stop him, just watched him disappear into the trees. It was almost midnight when I heard something on the porch. A thud. I stepped out, gun raised. He was there, breathing hard, eyes wide. At his feet was a torn strip of dark green nylon, a zipper attached, the kind found on tactical backpacks. I crouched down and picked it up. There was blood on the fabric. He just sat there watching me, and I realized something terrifying. He hadn't run from danger. He had gone toward it. Whatever training he had, whatever they'd done to him, it was still in there, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. That was the first time I locked the door from the inside. It started the next week. Every night, just after sunset, he'd disappear. No noise, no ceremony, just gone. And every morning, before dawn, I'd find him curled up by the fireplace, sometimes with leaves in his fur, once with a scratch across his muzzle. But he never limped, never looked tired, like whatever he was doing out there wasn't draining, it was necessary. I tried following him once, waited until he slipped out the back, then crept along behind. But within 5 minutes, I lost him, like he'd vanished into the trees. Spring was ending fast. The air was warmer now, the mornings damp with dew. But that fresh, hopeful feeling had gone flat. Something had shifted. One morning, while chopping wood, I caught a flicker of movement on the ridge. I looked up. A figure stood near the edge of the forest, distant but clear. He held something to his face. At first, I thought it was a camera. Then I realized binoculars. He didn't move. I raised my hand slowly, like a wave. The figure lowered the binoculars, then turned and walked into the trees. I reported it to the local sheriff's office. They were polite, but uninterested. "You say someone was watching you from a ridge? With binoculars?" "Yes." "Did they threaten you?" "No. But it's not the first time." "Sir, unless they're trespassing or causing damage, there's not much we can do." I hung up. Jake came by later that day, unannounced. He stood on the porch, arms crossed. "You all right?" he asked. "Fine. You don't look fine. Half the town says you're talking to yourself, carrying a shotgun to the mailbox." "I'm being cautious. Look, I don't care what you're hiding, but if there's something dangerous here." "There's not." He gave me a long, hard look, then walked away. That night, the bobcat left again. Same as always, but this time he didn't come back by dawn. I waited, paced, made coffee, checked the window every 10 minutes. Nothing. By noon, I was sweating. Not from heat, from dread. I searched the tree line, called his name even though I knew it meant nothing. I hiked the ridge, checked the shed, the riverbank. Nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. When the sun finally came up, I stepped outside. The front door, the one I'd locked, was wide open. The hinges didn't creak. The wind wasn't blowing, just open, and the house behind me was silent. I didn't go back inside. I stood there, staring at the open door, waiting for something. A sound, a shadow, anything. But there was only silence. And that silence said everything. He was gone. I searched for hours. Into the hills, along the creek, deep into the brush where the trees grow too thick for light. I called out, even though I'd never named him. My boots sank into wet soil. My shirt stuck to my back. That's when I saw the blood. Not a lot. Just a smear on a tree trunk, then another on a rock. Drops, then a trail. I followed it until it vanished in a patch of crushed grass and broken twigs. And there, hanging from a low branch, was his collar. Torn. One of the plastic buckles still bent and bloodied. I sank to my knees. The woods didn't care. They just stood there, quiet and still, like they'd seen this before. That night, I sat on the porch with the collar in my hands. The fireplace behind me had gone cold. I didn't light it. I didn't sleep that night or the night after. Days passed. The cabin felt empty, hollow. I kept listening for footsteps, for the soft scrape of claws on the floor. But nothing came. A week later, I got a letter. No return address. No markings. Just a plain envelope sealed tight. Inside was a photograph. He was sitting in a clearing. Calm. Alert. His fur was brushed clean. His eyes sharp. Next to him, crouched down, was a man in camo. Smiling. The same man who came to my door. I stared at it for a long time. My fingers trembled. Then I walked outside, dropped the photo into the fire pit, and lit a match. Curled and blackened in seconds. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just watched it burn until it was ash. Spring turned to summer. I fixed the window in the shed, repaired the fence, mowed the grass, tried to return to normal, whatever that meant. People in town stopped asking. Jake stopped calling. The quiet settled in again. But something in me had changed. Like part of me had gone missing in those woods, and I wasn't sure if I wanted it back. Then, one evening, just as the sun began to drop behind the ridge, I looked up, and there he was, at the edge of the tree line, still, watching. I didn't move, didn't speak. He stood there for a minute, maybe two, then turned and disappeared into the trees. No sound, no goodbye, and I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe grief does that, plays tricks, shows you what you want to see. Or maybe somehow he came back, just for a moment. Either I've lost my mind, or that was real.